Today we'll be talking about how to use your perfect pitch to gain partnerships and grow your startup. My name is YJ Lin. I'm a senior program manager for the Dell for Startups program. Today we have two wonderful guests. Amy Jo Martin. She is an author of the best-selling New York Times book, Renegade, Write the Rules. She's also an investor and host of the Why Not Now podcast and founder and CEO of Renegade Global. And next year we have Aaron Ronquillo. He's a sales and business development executive advisor, also an investor himself, and co-founder of a subscription-based merch company called Nakoshi.com. Amy Jo, you run an accelerator program. You developed a concept called Humanize to Monetize. So let's learn a little bit more about that and how it relates to creating a successful pitch.
One of the things that is critical in my experience is truly to humanize yourself prior to even getting to the pitch. When we humanize, we can monetize, right? Connection converts. And one of the things that we look at with the Renegade curriculum, and so we have several hundred women across the globe, female founders, that we're taking through this program and curriculum and helping them build their personal brands. One of the things we do is teach them about what we call is go-to stories. So this is a 1 to 2 minute story. It's a performance. It's going to quickly share who you are, why you do what you do, what the problem and solution is, and it's going to highlight your passion and your healthy obsession for what you're building. It's oftentimes what will either keep our attention or not, and you know pretty quickly if that entrepreneur has it.
Why is pitching one of the most important skills a founder can develop?
Mastering the art of pitching is far more important than just impressing investors. They actually allow you to attract great co-founders, recruit early team members, then eventually just fine-tune your idea.
Why would you say that knowing the right audience or your audience is important? And why is sharing the who and the why, not necessarily the what, matters?
One of the things that as an investor, I usually know pretty well whether or not I'm going to be warm to an idea before I even hear anything, right? So you've usually either done a little bit of research, you've heard something, hopefully the founder, entrepreneur has warmed you up somehow, and there's a personal connection of some sort. There's a lot of what out there, but people need to convince me why are they the right fit for this problem solution. 99% of the times when we start a company, things are going to shift drastically anyway. Our plan will, the dynamics of the market, the environment, everything's going to be volatile. So what I'm looking for is, does that person have the figure it out muscle to see through the mystery?
A lot of things have changed in the past 3 years. As you're supporting entrepreneurs with helping them with pitching in different environments, can you give us some tips as far as what would you tell your founders the do's and don'ts in pitching in a virtual world?
There are some rules, no ego, direct, kind feedback. And so one of the things, I'm thinking about a specific example. There's a woman, her name's Amber Allen. She has a company called AA Labs. So she pitches us. She has a metaverse platform that creates connection and community. So she launches in with a go-to story. She's mixing a humanized personal story with data. And when we do that, that's our biggest bet on being able to influence behavior and change. And the fact that she was so precise, she led with story, she wrapped her data, she was humanized, and then had extra time for Q&A was huge, because that conversation is gold. By the way, the net of that, within 24 hours, we pulled together quickly and we had $250,000 for her.
Aaron, in your experience, when we talk about what builds a successful partnerships and how you can strategize for it, can you give some insight towards the topic?
Partnership is everything, right? Everyone has a goal in mind, so it's make the goal realistic, right? And make sure you communicate that with your partners. A couple of gigs ago, I worked at a company, they implemented SMART goals, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So that allows me to make sure I have a decent chance of accomplishing a goal. But it also allows me to accurately measure my partner's goal, right? So that's been super helpful.
Would you share with us, what are some qualities, or at least 3 qualities from previous pitches that stood out to you?
I'm thinking of my portfolio right now, and I think everyone in there, all the founders, I knew them personally somehow first, right? My very first investor was Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, and I met him through a direct message on Twitter in 2008. So making sure that you know something about them. I recently sat down with the CMO of a huge global corporate brand, and I was having a conversation with her, pitching her on something, and she was not in a good mood. And I had seen on her LinkedIn, and I had listened to a podcast she had been on, and her daughter had just gone away to college. And I was like, oh, so-and-so, I saw that your daughter just went to college. That's got to be exciting. I actually went to the same college, and I said, if she'd ever want, to talk or want any guidance, all of a sudden, that conversation flipped, and this woman was my friend, right? I mean, that stuff matters. We're humans, and we need to have a deeper connection than just looking at data on slides.
What would you say are 3 pitching tips you've learned that you would want other startup founders to remember and know?
I think in general, just tell your story and make your opening pop. And then second, take them on a journey. Like you mentioned, humanize it. Be transparent, right? Because people connect in emotions. And for me, lastly, bring it all back together. Tell them why you started your startup to begin with, and convince them why your team is going to solve that problem. I think that's super important.
One of the things about storytelling and just even performance is telling the story in present tense. So take that person back to that moment that you had the idea. You should know and be able to almost act out the story, because you want to take people in that moment with you and build that influence so quick and compound it to where when it's time to make the ask, they're in.
As an author, as an investor, who are the favorite people in your lives?
From a partnership perspective, the mentors in my life, they have always asked me the hard questions. They've never given me the answers. Whether it's Tony Hsieh or Susie Batiste or Vic Keller, they're always asking those right questions. And so I like those people who can teach you how to think versus always seeking outside external insight.
I mean, for me, it's I think partnership in 2 aspects, right? I have personal partnership. My wife, for example, she's my biggest supporter. And from a professional perspective, I think having that right connection, right? As far as like what Amy Jo was referencing to, connect with folks that are going to challenge you. If somebody doesn't scare you shitless, that means you're not going to grow. Make sure you're constantly in the learning mode and never be too good for someone.